the Chi-Town experience on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
The Chicago Bears could target this big-time free agent, and he would be a perfect fit in Ben Johnson's offense here in Chicago. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, Bears fans, we have another interesting topic of discussion on today's podcast. As we all know, the new league year is slowly creeping up on us. We are less than a month away for the start of free agency, and we all know that the Chicago Bears and Ryan Poles will be active in free agency. They have a whole lot of cap space to spend to really revamp this roster. They do have some huge areas of needs that involve the offensive line and defensive line. They have a new coaching staff in place with certain preferences of the players that they want. Obviously, Ben Johnson has been very clear on what, upgrades he would like to see on the Chicago Bears roster going forward. Basically, the running back position, he understands the offensive line needs work. There's been, a lot of talk about adding to the defensive line as well. And we all know the vocal point for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears will be to upgrade this offensive line for Caleb Williams and this Chicago Bears offense. We cannot see another year of Caleb Williams getting sacked 68 times. That was definitely a big no-no. We understand that Ryan Poles has a lot of work to do to revamp this offensive line. There's already some pieces in place on this Bears O-line that include, Darnell Wright, but the entirety of the interior of this Bears offensive line needs to be upgraded, and that will be the vocal point going into this offseason. And we all know, if he makes it to free agency, I know that Ryan Poles will make a huge push for former Pro Bowl right guard Trey Smith. It makes all the sense in the world due to his connection with Trey Smith during his time with the Kansas City Chiefs. And everyone around the National Football League as well expects the Chicago Bears to land Trey Smith. We all understand that he's probably going to get $22 million per year when he signs his new contract when free agency opens up next month. However, many around the league also believe that the Chicago Bears will double dip on the offensive line, which once again, we need 3 new quality starters on the interior of the offensive line. I expect Coleman Shelton to be replaced. I expect Tevin Jenkins to walk in free agency. And of course, we have a massive need at right guard as well. So if you land Trey Smith, he resolves that right guard problem, but then you would still need to find a new good quality center and left guard on the interior of the Chicago Bears offensive line. And to me, with the league expecting the Bears to double dip on offensive line, that's nothing that us Bears fans have heard before. That's what we want as well. This is not going to be a sexy offseason for the Chicago Bears, which is totally fine with me. Ryan Poles needs to get the offensive line squared away so Caleb Williams can take that massive year 2 jump that all Bears fans expect and people around the National Football League expect as well. That's the only way that Ben Johnson's going to be really able to bring his offensive masterpiece and what we saw in Detroit here to Chicago is if he has a good offensive line up front. So when you're talking about the Bears double dipping, we have been talking about center Drew Dalman as well, which to me, he would be a good quality center. I know there's been some arguments about maybe, keeping Coleman Shelton as well, but I do think that Drew Dalman would be an upgrade at the center position. But I also believe, Bears fans, that they will also make a strong push for guard Evan Brown once free agency opens up. So on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, let's go ahead and talk about this big time free agent target, Evan Brown, and how I feel like he would be a perfect fit for Ben Johnson's offense here in Chicago. When you look at Evan Brown, Bears fans, he's 28 years old, stands at 6'2", 305 pounds, coming off a really strong performance at left guard for the Arizona Cardinals, only allowing 20 pressures and 2 sacks on 644 pass block snaps in 2024. He also has a history with Ben Johnson, which is a huge plus for the Bears. Brown played for the Detroit Lions from 2020 to 2022, and he had his best season come in 2021, where he logged 755 snaps at center, only allowing 8 pressures, 1 sack, and 3 quarterback hits, and also posting a pass blocking grade of 72.4 according to PFF. Bears fans, I would really like this move. for the Chicago Bears for many different reasons. I believe that Evan Brown could help the Chicago Bears improve up front. I think it's a huge bonus that he's familiar with Ben Johnson, so I can definitely see Ben Johnson kind of pounding the table to bring Evan Brown here to Chicago. He also has great versatility. He has shown that he could play solid football, not only at the guard position, but the center position as well. And I do understand that Ryan Poles likes his offensive linemen to have versatility, because you do realize that injuries do happen. So if someone got injured at center and he was currently playing guard, he can move over to center and still play solid football for the Chicago Bears offensive line. And he has also shown some really good durability and consistency on the football field as well. And to me, when I'm looking for offensive linemen for the Chicago Bears, if I were Ryan Poles, how durable are you? You don't want to put yourself in another Nate Davis or Tevin Jenkins situation, especially when you're looking at Tevin Jenkins. When Tevin Jenkins was available and healthy, he was, to me, one of the better guards in the National Football League. He definitely made our offensive line better, but the problem was that Tevin Jenkins could never find a way to stay on the football field for the Chicago Bears. So I think Ryan Poles needs to keep that little tidbit in mind when he's bringing in new offensive linemen to try to revamp this position group for the Chicago Bears roster. Are you durable and are you consistent when you are on the football field? Evan Brown has been durable and he's been consistent, not only at the center position, but also at the guard position wherever he has been, right? So Evan Brown would give the Bears a chess piece they can plug in right away and wherever they need him. So for example, if they sign another guard, you can put Evan Brown at center. If they land a good center, you can also keep him at the guard position. The best part about Evan Brown and why I think it's the perfect fit for the Chicago Bears is that he's only going to cost around $5 to $7 million per year on his next deal. So personally, if I were Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears, I would land Trey Smith for his big deal, right? He's going to get $22 million per year. Then you can sign Evan Brown to either play guard or center position for this offensive line for about $5 to $7 million. And if you're able to land both Trey Smith and Evan Brown once free agency opens up next month for the National Football League, now you would be in a great situation, not only to revamp your offensive line, but going into the NFL draft, now you've covered two big areas of need in free agency, talking about the interior of the Bears offensive line, which we all know is a huge struggle going into this offseason for the Chicago Bears. So if you get those two areas of needs going into round one of the NFL draft, you can basically just draft the best player on your board. If you are high on Ashton Jeanty, the running back out of Boise State, you can go ahead and take Ashton Jeanty. If you want an edge rusher like James Pierce out of Tennessee, go ahead and take James Pierce. If you want to trade down, that's fine. If you want to stay put and draft another guard or tackle, that's also okay. Whoever is high on your draft board going in to the 2025 NFL draft, Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, and the Chicago Bears organization would have that luxury because they landed two huge pieces in free agency to add to their offensive line and revamp their offensive line. Obviously, Ryan Poles wouldn't have that luxury if he doesn't land a couple offensive linemen in free agency, because then going into the draft, you would have to worry about still adding some offensive line pieces, to this roster, right? So to me, if I am Ryan Poles, if I'm the GM of the Chicago Bears, even if the Bears do land Trey Smith and Evan Brown in free agency once it opens up next month, I would still draft Will Campbell out of LSU in round one of the 2025 NFL draft. And then what I would do with Will Campbell is, because I know there's a lot of areas about him, not being able to play tackle or translating to playing tackle in the National Football League, I would move Will Campbell into that guard position. And then I would put Evan Brown at the center spot, right? So I really like what Will Campbell would be at guard in the National Football League. He definitely brings that nasty edge in terms of setting the tone in the run game, which I know Ben Johnson is going to want that in his running game here in Chicago. He wants to be able to establish the run, because we understand if we're able to establish the run here in Chicago, that's going to make Caleb Williams' life a whole lot easier playing the quarterback position in the National Football League. And to me, adding Will Campbell will do just that. If you take that scenario that I just gave you guys, our offensive line will look something like this. Left tackle, Braxton Jones. Left guard, Will Campbell. Center, Evan Brown. Right guard, Trey Smith. And right tackle, Darnell Wright. To me, on paper, that is a much improved unit compared to last year for the Chicago Bears. And then, of course, you let Dan Rochar do his thing, develop these guys the right way, and get them to play at a high level. And I think once these guys can gel and get the continuity, I think this offense for Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears will really take off to a whole new level. So Bears fans, Ryan Poles can go in many, many different ways. And I also want to talk a little bit before I let you guys go today on today's episode of Keek on the Mic about a sleeper pick for the Chicago Bears as well in round 1 of the 2025 NFL draft, because personally, I think the Chicago Bears should really go offensive lineman no matter what in round 1 of the draft, because that is the biggest area of need. Not only do we need to find quality starters, we need to find quality depth pieces as well for this offensive line. So a sleeper pick for the Chicago Bears in the 2025 NFL draft is Armand Membu. He's the offensive tackle out of Missouri. This guy is 6'3", 325 pounds. Don't let that 325 pounds fool you. This guy is a freak athlete. He's flying off draft boards right now, Bears fans. He's explosive, plus controlled and pass protection. He's a finisher in the run game. He loves to set the tone, so he has that nasty edge as well. He is still only 20 years old, so he is still yet to really reach his ceiling of the player that he can actually be. Once again, that's where having a good offensive line coach and Dan Rochar comes in. This guy can be a day one impact player with high-end potential to get a whole lot better as well. He also has the versatility to kick inside to guard as well. So let's say you say, you know what, we're going to pass on Will Campbell. We're going to trade down from number 10 a little bit, and we're going to probably collect a second or fourth round pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Maybe depending on how far you drop down, maybe you even get a pick for the 26 NFL draft, and you're still able to land a day one impact player on the offensive line in Armand Membu. I would also be okay with that scenario as well. So once again, even though I feel like he has the versatility to kick into guard, and even though the frame, the 6'3", 325 frame doesn't seem like it would translate for him to play good at tackle in the NFL as well, he has the fundamentals to translate to the National Football League because he's been battle tested. He's been playing against pretty good competition at the college level while playing at Missouri. So if you want him to play tackle, that's okay as well. But I think he would be a really good guard in the National Football League. So let's say you did decide to trade back, draft Armand Membu, then you're just basically switching out Will Campbell for Armand Membu. I think it would also be a great option for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to really bolster their offensive line either way that they go. So Bears fans, expect Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, the Bears to not only double dip, probably triple dip on the offensive line, because we definitely need good quality starters and also good quality depth behind these starters as well, just in case these guys get injured. Ryan Poles needs to be overly prepared. He's under a lot of pressure. He hasn't done a good job in the past of building the Chicago Bears offensive line. So hopefully with Ben Johnson's help, hopefully even with Dan Rochar's help, they can finally build a good quality offensive line to really allow the Bears offense and Caleb Williams to get to the next level. So Bears fans, go ahead and comment down below on how you felt about today's video. If it was up to you, would you guys prefer the Bears to draft Will Campbell out of LSU, or possibly just trade back and maybe take a guy like Armand Membu, the tackle out of Missouri? Let me know down below. Also, let me know how you're feeling about Evan Brown as well as a possibility in free agency for the Chicago Bears. But other than that, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, be back for an all new Bears podcast right here on Keek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the Mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the Mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the Mic.